Let's rock. Let's just get into it. We got Hobby with Cage here, episode 38. Can't believe I'm going to have 40 of these recorded by the time we get to National. 40-something, right? Do a few more of these. Hope you guys are enjoying them. Got a lot of great messages, a lot of great DMs on Instagram about the last few episodes. Sort of starting with that Bull and Bear, you know, the back and forth, and then the hobby check-in, and then the optimism at Bleecker, and, you know, where will the Cowboys gone? We've had some really great comments. Take a look on YouTube and send me a message. I'll tell you just right off the bat, generally speaking, the messages are, hey, I needed to hear this. Generally speaking, the messages are, you know, thanks for saying this. I know I'm not alone. Hey, I've had some hobby burnout. Hey, I've refocused how I collect. I've refocused what I'm doing with my money in the hobby, and you know, yeah, I've seen less of these people also. And I mean, you name it. It's been fun having those conversations, and, you know, being able to let people know what I'm doing with my collection, what I'm doing with my PC. You know, we talked about auditing your PC. If you didn't listen to that one, you should probably go back and take a listen to that. It seems like a really good time to do that in advance of the National. After the National, you always be kind of assessing where you are financially in the real world, and see whether or not there's anything you can do in the hobby to kind of, you know, give you a little more peace of mind in that real world, your real world finances. Spoke to a couple of folks who sold some cards and paid off a bunch of debt, and they were able to, you know, kind of feel better about the cards that remained in their collection rather than worrying, oh man, you know, I have this collection here and it's actually preventing me from paying off bills, and you name it. I think a lot of us were in an interesting spot like that. A lot of us were, you know, when things were running, it's like, all right, well, you know, I might as well buy more. It's going to run. I'll pay it off over time, you know. We talked about kind of like the leverage and liquidity in the hobby, a lot of lending companies and that kind of stuff. And, you know, they seem to have mostly, for the most part, kind of come and gone. But anyway, there's, you know, there's kind of the recap on the last couple of days. Obviously, if you're clicking this and you're looking at the title, you know, I don't do sensational titles. I don't do, you know, craziness. But when you read that title, delays at PSA, it's sort of eye-grabbing. So let's give a little bit of dessert first. I read an article today that said that PSA opened their facility in Japan for grading, which is, you know, it's probably great for them. Probably a lot of, you know, overseas folks will start grading and not have to worry about, you know, shipping their cards, you know, from there to here, worry about customs, worry about, you know, back and forth, worry about, like, you know, losing their cards, and you name it. I'm sure it's, you know, the ease of use, you know, for the folks overseas, would probably be a lot easier with this new facility. I know it was talked about, I think, as early as 2018. So here we are 5 years later. It sounds like they've actually opened the doors. I don't think that has anything to do with the quote unquote delays at PSA, but it's worth mentioning. You know, I have a lot of, I'm going to call them focus groups, but I got a lot of Instagram groups. You know, folks I chat with, DM with, you know, we have the Luca Nation OGs still, you know, in the group. And I've noticed a lot of chatter recently in those groups about cards not coming back from PSA in a timely manner. You know, one guy chimed in, hey, I needed something reslabbed and reholdered, and it got done pretty quickly. But for the most part, the people that I chat with are talking about how there is, you know, PSA is not getting to their stuff as quickly as, you know, as they previously were. Now, can't just throw that out there and kind of like, you know, that's it, lob it and say, I'm hearing, or, you know, I'm asking questions. No, you have to have some facts to back up delays at PSA. And I know my question is, my title has a question, delays at PSA, question mark. But I don't do that kind of crap. I ask it as a question because even if I have one example or 5 examples, there are thousands of people grading cards with PSA, and the sample size would be too small to, you know, say there's actually delays. But you guys know what I do. You know, if I say something, I'm going to attempt to have, you know, documentation, evidence, back it up. We're not sensationalism here, but it's worth noting. And then let's talk about what maybe it means, good and bad. I personally sent an order into PSA in the middle of June. I sent it in. I think it might have actually gone in the mail like the maybe June 20th or 19th or 18th or something like that. Like towards the end of June, I was trying to get an order in their monthly sub, which was 90s, but anything from the 90s on. I think that might have been a mistake. Maybe, we can talk about that in a second, because the one that's running now is just 80s. Card has to be from the actual 80s. That one was a 90s special, but the wording on it specifically said 90s to now. Like basically you could submit anything from the last 30 years and you'd qualify as long as it was under the value, restrictions. So my cards arrived there on June 26th. And standard fare for me, I mean, I've had a lot of PSA orders, thousands of cards that I've graded with PSA. And usually within a couple of days, that order is moved from 1, 2, and 3. It's not just in phase 1 of their little, the little status bar, I guess we're going to call it. It goes to 3. And 3 is research and ID. And that's where it kind of sits for a little while until they move it into the grading 4. And most of us, within a couple days, it moves into research and ID, and it's fine. They have to research, they have to make sure they know what cards they are and make sure that they're entered the right way and all the like. But usually that phase 1 there doesn't last that long. And here I am recording this on July 12th. All right. So that's 12 days of July and 4 days of June. All right, from when they received it. And my order is still sitting in stage 1, which is arrived. I've never seen that before. I've never seen it take that long to just be marked. The post office dropped it off and they're not doing anything with it. It's just there waiting to be. So I sent an email. Now, let's give some kudos. It took, I believe, 2 days. Yes. I sent it on July 10th, and I got an email response July 12th, today, and PSA customer service responded. Give them some credit, right? We're going to start off with delays at PSA. You got to give credit where credit's due. I did get a response to my question, which was just simply, hey, I want to make sure there's nothing wrong with my order. It's been there since June 26th. The response back is very polite, very professional. Taking a look at my account, it looks like the submission has not been entered yet, unfortunately. All right, make me feel good. Sorry, it's not entered yet. Not to worry, as it is still going through the line to be processed. Okay, it's going through the line to be processed 16 days later. However, due to high submission volumes, it's sort of like when you call, an automated thing. No matter when you call, it could be Monday at 8 in the morning. It could be Friday at 10 o'clock at night. It could be the weekend. When you call and you get an automated thing, due to high call volumes, we are experiencing delays providing customer service or getting someone on the phone to answer. It doesn't matter. It always is high call volumes. There's no okay, we just got high volumes. You happen to call when everybody else decided to call. So sort of the same type of line, but let's just give it a pass and say that it's right? Due to high submission volumes, we are getting through as much as we can. Every order is handled carefully and thoroughly looked over. Okay, that's fine. I would understand that more in the grading, in the research and ID, that everything is looked over. That would make more sense. This is sort of like, all right, we're just putting it in, right? Like, hey, it's arrived, and I don't work at PSA, right? I'll say that right off the bat. I don't know exactly what it means to arrive and then not arrive and check the mail and check the paperwork. Here's the fun one. As of right now, we are opening mail from dates 6/21, 6/22. That's this morning as I record this. Okay, so 6/21 mail is being opened now. I mean, I always forget how many days there are in June, but let's just say 9 days, right? It could be more, right? It could be 117 days, but let's just say the 21st to the end of June. It's funny. People have songs to remember how many days. But yes, there are 30 days in June. There's 9 days from the 21st and now 12 days in July, which means 3 weeks. It means that if you've submitted your cards to PSA in the last 3 weeks, they have not yet been entered into their system. They've not moved it along yet. We deeply apologize for any inconvenience. We're working diligently to get your order back to you. Okay. I guess what it means, hopefully in the next 4 or 5 days or so, that it gets entered, right? At least maybe moves to research and ID, because mine was there on the 26th. They're in the 21, 22 is what they're telling me. I give them a lot of credit for answering, for sending me an email back. I mean, I appreciate that tremendously. What does it mean? Now, a couple folks in my groups, in my chats, specifically mentioned they were hoping to get some of their cards back by National. These are not people who submitted cards a week or two ago. They're people who have cards in there. So it's not just the intake that seems to be backed up. It seems to be the entire process, which, I mean, let's take it from a good standpoint. All right. Now, delays at PSA. The last couple times we saw delays at PSA was when they had too many cards in. They got a lot of cards. People were trying to grade. And maybe it's possible that with the special last month that was very inclusive, again, sports cards from the 90s on, that's a lot, right? That's like everything. You could submit anything and it become a $15. That was their collectors club special, $15 grading for anything from the 90s on. Is it possible, again, I asked, that maybe they meant to just do 90s cards like they're doing just 80s cards now, and the language opened up that special to more than they thought they were going to get? Possibly. I used it. I submitted cards, and I can tell you, while there were plenty from the 90s, I used it to submit some of my Drew Bledsoe collection. Can't wait to show that off to you guys. But there were plenty of modern cards, plenty of Ultramart, plenty of cards that I've opened with Ian this year out of boxes. So I'm just going to say right now, it appears that they've slowed down. I hope, for the sake of the hobby overall, let's say it this way. I would be willing to have my order delayed the way that it's being delayed and not getting back the same way that it was coming back in March or February of this year, if what that means is the hobby's got some strength to it, that there are more people grading cards, that PSA has a volume that is, on the uptick. I haven't seen it yet really in the gem mint reports and the gem rate reports. I haven't seen it yet. And that's, sorry, I butchered your name, Ryan, but you know what I'm talking about, the gem rate. But maybe we're going to start to see it now. Maybe PSA's, June special, which was a pretty inclusive special, maybe that's one that, ends up being, a big number for PSA. I'm going to hope that that's the case. I just figured it's noteworthy because a lot of people in our groups are talking about kind of delays getting their cards back. And I wonder if that's going to impact people having those cards for the National. I still haven't seen too much in the way of what grading is going to be available at the National. I'm sure PSA will still do what they normally do. Or Beckett, the last National, I don't think SGC graded on site. So that's going to be interesting to see whether or not they are bringing their grading machines and grade on site. And then the cost. I mean, it's never really cheap, but it's usually worth it. That on-site grading, it just, it injects liquidity. It injects, cards that are graded that can then be sold and, moved around the floor. You take a raw card that you buy day one, you grade it. You got hopefully a good grade. You found a good card, and you're generating cash for yourself, dealer, maybe a trade, you name it. So that is one of the things that I'm most looking forward to for the National. That's going to end the grading segment here. I'll try to keep this to 25 minutes. So that gives me 10 minutes more, and I'm going to try to do a little, talk about lead up to National, where my thoughts are and what I'm hearing from other folks. Sort of the end of most of these episodes as we approach. There's only a handful of episodes left. I will tell you, A lot of people messaging, hey, I'm going to be there for a day. Hey, I'm going to be there for 2 days. Can we meet up? 100%. 100%. If you see me, tap me on the shoulder, say hi. Chances are, because of my ugly mug being out there on IG and, my news being watched as often as it is every Tuesday and shared, you will probably recognize me. I may not recognize you. I hate getting the messages after the National or Mint or whatever to say, hey, I saw you, but you were talking and I didn't want to interrupt you. Guess what? I'm always talking. Clearly, I don't stop talking. So interrupt me. Come on over, say hi. Let's get a high five. Let's chat. I've talked about this a couple of times. Chicago's not exactly the easiest place to do a cigar event. That said, I'm going to have some cigars and I'm going to find a way. I don't know if it's just smoking, at the Valet. I did that in Chicago with the Reckless Clan. And, we'll find a way. We'll find a way to hang out. I get great messages from folks saying, hey, I got a reservation at Gibson Steakhouse for 2 people. Can I call and make it 3 and add you on? And I'm like, sure, let's go, let's figure out a way to hang out. But I am definitely excited about that. One of the messages I got, I'll just say, from Drake's PC, who listened to the episode, he had a great message to me about how, what he's looking forward to most is not flipping, not, maneuvering, but the people, the friends that have been made, the folks that he's looking to see that he doesn't get to see and talk to, and then the chase for sort of like grail cards at the National that don't really come up. On the flip side, I got some messages about people who don't really want to go to the National this year, and people who, said they were there before and are not going this year because of where they are in the hobby. And I even got this one. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. The National is the worst place to buy cards, unless you're looking for some rare thing that, is only going to pop up there. It's the worst place to buy cards. I followed up with a why, and they said, well, because everybody there is looking to gouge you on price. Everybody's charging too much. And I thought about it for a minute, and it sort of makes sense, right? The dealers who are there, the folks who are setting up, they're spending a lot of money to go there, spending money for their table, spending money for travel, probably more so than most shows, because this is a big show. I know there are some shows that the table costs more, but the travel to get there, the amount of time you're there, the amount of days the show is, this is the big one. And so I'm sure that, that gets factored in. But I got to tell you, I've been to the National the last few years and I found deals. And even if you're not looking to buy, cards per se, there's always somebody looking to make a deal. I know that at the last National, Andrew and I both brought with us Luca Prism Silvers, because we had a conversation about how we thought that the money on them was, that the price on them was too high. And at that National, they were worth about $4,000. So we both moved them at the National. A tale of 2 stories here. I moved mine for $4,000 cash. Use that money to buy PMGs, low-level PMGs, but PMGs nonetheless, that I sold in the following 6 months to a year for $6,000. Andrew traded for some Anthony Davis and Bradley Beal cards, about $4,000 worth, but I don't think that those cards are worth that now. He may not have them anymore. I honestly don't know. But the point being, there are deals to be made at National. There's more liquidity, more money, more tables in the room. And just as people like to say that it's the show where if you're looking for something, if it's not there, you're going to really have a hard time finding it. You'll find it there. The same thing. You go to a local show with your box of cards to trade, to sell. It's a smaller show. There's 40 tables, 60 tables, however many there are. Chances are that there's going to be somebody in the room who's interested in what you have. And if the dealers aren't, there's trade nights, there's formal trade nights, and then there's informal trade nights every night in those hotels. The hotel lobbies are a lot of fun. And I sent this message to a couple of people also, because people, their first time, what do I do? Where do I go? And I said, the real party starts, the real fun starts after the show ends, the normal show ends at like 6:00. After the show ends, everybody goes back. They have dinner. They go to their nightly events. Some go to, sponsored events. And you come back to the hotel. At least one hotel every night has a trade night. I'm not even talking about just like your organized trade nights, Kentucky Roadshow ones, or Don Diego's TCG trade night, which I hope I can get into. Her one in Atlantic City was like the fire marshal shut it down. I was talking to, it looks like Mama Breaks is going to be there trying to meet up with Star Wars folks. It's sort of like a different type of collecting vibe. And I hope to be able to, get in to that event. But the each hotel sort of has sort of like, lobby, and boom, people are just sitting there in the lobby because all the hotels are connected to the convention center. It's pretty cool to see people just walking with cases. Oh, here we go. Like let's sit down and make a trade. So I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff. A couple of end notes. Number one, got a lot of nice messages. The hobby is a great community. I got a message yesterday, somebody, who saw that I was posting about Arena Club. And, they said they were on it. They wanted to make a trade. They found me through that. But they also said, hey, here are some suggestions here. I'll offer you a trade. I found you through the Reckless hobby night school. Everyone they have on there is awesome. They're all great followers, and those people are great. Second and third, I agree with that entirely. There are folks like that I really hope to see at the National. The Chicago National, that was sort of like the first impromptu cigar event that I had, and it was the Reckless family that I think had just driven to Milwaukee from Chicago, or they were about to drive there. I mean, crazy, crazy folks. They brought the cigars. We were first cigar event, smoking cigars was, their cigar. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot to be excited about. And, I can just tell you, I'm definitely excited about the prospect of heading out there, seeing people, shaking hands, doing some giveaways. I sent some cards into Arena Club myself for pickup with their 555 special. So I have some Arena Club slabs at the National to give away. I've done that at National before. I brought up, remember, Mookie Betts had a 2013 Prism draft picks rookie card that was $1 in raw, and I graded hundreds of them. And they were selling pretty well at a time, but I brought boxes of them with me to the National, was just handing them out to people as gifts. So I like doing stuff like that. I like I like seeing folks. So I guess the reminder there is, please, if you see me, come bother me. Come say hi. Otherwise, we're not going to meet. Like, let's hang out. Let's smoke a cigar. Let's chat. Tell me in person what you guys tell me in the DMs. Good, bad, or ugly. Some of it's ugly. I can take it. I'm a big boy. Last thing, we're at 23 minutes or so. I said I'd keep it to 25. 1 minute. I will tell you, and this ties back to what I hope the reason for the quote-unquote delays at PSA is, the strength in the hobby with national excitement, although I don't see the same type of buzz as I did. I will tell you that I've been contacted a few times recently about cards that I own. PC cards, high-end cards that I don't necessarily, publish that are out there. People know, and that's sort of the grapevine, but I've been contacted recently by folks, intermediaries, people trying to make deals. Oh, you have that. I have a buyer who's looking for that. Oh, you have this card. I got a buyer who's coming over from Australia and looking to buy a bunch of cards. That's one they are looking for. We haven't been able to find one. Would you be willing to sell? Yeah. I mentioned this to you. By the way, one of them was a Pokemon card. You could probably guess which one it is if you guys listen to me. But I mention this because, to me, that's an important fact for you guys to know. It is, I guess, a groundswell of support. It's an underlying support that's there that I want to make sure you know about, that there are people out there who are still spending or looking to spend a significant amount of money on the cards that they want. Maybe they're not buying, PSA 10 base cards to flip, but people are still out there looking to buy the cards that they need for their PCs, the cards that they want to add into their collection. So just want to make sure I threw that one out there for you. We'll talk again soon. I hope to maybe have some guests between now and the National. We're 2 weeks out. I got to go buy my airfare. Talk to you guys soon. Let me know what you think.